So it's just coming up to 12 o'clock. So welcome to the weekly Q&A with me, Councillor Vikki Slade, leader of BCP Council. This week we haven't had any technical hitches, so the only chance of any problem is if any of my children come rushing through that back door there, but they have all been told to keep out of the way. Thankfully, I've just noticed one of my children is now watching this, so hopefully that will keep her in her own bedroom. There are a couple of developments I just wanted to update everybody on as the questions start coming in. I will be doing as many of the questions as I can, and anything that we haven't covered during the 30 minutes that we've got set aside, I will go back later and make comment on. If I don't make comment, it's because it's been covered during the 30 minutes, and that's obviously doubling up. So just to let you know, since last week, we have had the opening of a testing centre within our area. The former Park and Ride in Creekmore is now open and running. However, it is for appointment only. So if you are currently experiencing symptoms of COVID and you qualify, then you are able to go online. I have tested it this morning. I didn't go all the way through because I don't have any symptoms, but it is quite an easy application to go through. You need to justify which group you're in, because some areas are able to access testing and others not, and instructions will be given. It is a vehicle-only drive-through testing centre, so you do have to have access to go there by car. That's for the safety and security of yourself, your family, the local residents, and of course the staff that are working there. So if that does apply to you, there's some new guidance on who can be covered, and I'm sure that will come up. So there's a question about carers getting PPE. All carers have access to PPE, obviously unpaid carers. If that is an official arrangement where it's a direct care payment being given, then there are processes for doing that. The council are able to assist. Certainly in BCP Council, we're working closely with our providers where they are running short to get their additional PPE. I'm not sure whether the lady that's asked the question lives in BCP. I think I recognise the name, might be actually Dorset Council. I can't comment for them. But obviously, we are hearing from care homes and direct care providers going into homes where they're not getting the amount that they need. We are topping those up where we can. There is a project running nationally, which we have been told is being delayed. That's a government scheme that's due to supply everybody with their PPE. So I would urge you to go through your normal channels to get your PPE, and if those channels are blocked, then there are routes back so that the council can assist. And that is actually taking the supplies from our own care workers and donations that we've been given, but we aren't able to supply in the long term because we don't have that supply ourselves. Somebody's concerned about speeding. Speeding needs to be reported in the normal way. We know that the No Excuses team have reduced their patrols because we've got more community patrols going on. You can report via the No Excuses team of Dorset Council, and I have raised it with the Chief Constable and the Police Commissioner about some areas that are seeing increased speeds because the number of cars on the roads are actually shorter. Is there a question about the tips? Well, there's a suggestion it's going to get worse and worse the longer they're closed. Well, garden waste has been restored. If it's building waste, you shouldn't be taking it to the tip anyway. You need to be paying for having that taken away because ultimately that is chargeable waste. Domestic waste, we've been picking up your black bins as normal, your blue bins, your food waste where you get food waste, and now your green bins are restored. So the tips will open in due course, but they will open in a planned way when it is appropriate to do so, and when the government have clarified with the police that the police are content that this is an essential visit. And I would argue that in the main, taking your old fridge or excess waste that you've created to the dump is not an essential journey alongside the other list of items. B, that our staff are safe, that we can perform social distancing, that they're not going to suffer abuse. Thirdly, that the traffic chaos that will come can be managed by the police. This is going to lead to traffic on the highway, and if the police aren't content that they can support that, then it would actually cause a danger to the highway and emergency services. So we are looking at how we can do that in a controlled way, and all councils are working with the government to do that in a way that's going to work for everybody. Question about Paul Crematorium. This isn't a new thing. The Paul Crematorium has had to close to services. Apologies, not closed to services. It's only closed to the actual cremations, and that is because of the state of the cremators, which has been in decline for a considerable amount of time. And we didn't want to be in a situation where the most awful thing happened, where the cremator was to fail, whilst working. So you can still book a cremation at Paul Crematorium. You can still attend and have your service there, and then the body will be respectfully moved to Bournemouth for the cremation. You could alternatively book it for Bournemouth Crematorium, but at the moment there's no prospect of us reopening that because there are huge amounts of investment that are needed. And bearing in mind that we've done a calculation that the council is likely to be £30 million short, as I said onto the national TV at the weekend, spending significant amounts of money on that when we do have a functioning crematorium is not something we can prioritise. Pothole filling. So the question about potholes, the category 1 potholes are being filled. Anything that's an emergency or urgent is being worked on. We do have approximately 10% staff sickness or isolation where people aren't able to go out and work. So whilst the roads are quieter, we also have a reduced capacity. We also have to manage what I've just said about the finances, where we are significantly short on funds, and we have to be mindful of what is dangerous and what is an inconvenience. We will be doing the significant potholes, but not the minor ones. How many BCP staff have been furloughed? And that's a really interesting question. The furlough scheme can be used for a selected number of staff that we've been carefully looking at. You can't furlough somebody if they're directly funded by the public purse, because you're effectively getting paid twice. So we are working through a process on people who are working for our wholly owned companies, and we are looking at people who are funded through fees and charges. So, for example, fees that are coming in from beachfront services. Lots of angry faces, not quite sure why that might be, but probably someone that just doesn't like me. That's fair enough. Is there a letterbox at the front of the town hall to deliver disabled parking application forms? I would strongly suggest that you send them in or you do them online. It's a very specific question I can get answered for you, but I would recommend that you do these things online. Home test kits. Yes, Claire, there are home test kits available, but if you go online today, you will find that that there aren't any available at the moment. That's government. You need to deal with government and their capacity. And as my colleague Sandra said, no, you can't furlough direct council staff. So for somebody who is in the pay of the council tax, you can't do that at the moment. So we are looking really carefully at that. Are council staff being seconded to care home sector? We have council staff being seconded all over the place, including to the care sector. We also have council staff who are being seconded to help run the temporary mortuary facility. So they are being redeployed wherever they can. Our first priority is to the public and to make sure that the public response was right. And that is one of the reasons why we wouldn't just lay off a whole load of staff and then the next week discover that actually we need those people to pick up the 10% of people who aren't able to work. Was there a discount for non-beach huts? We've talked about beach huts excessively. There is no changes at the moment to our intention over beach huts. The £30 million shortfall that we've talked about and I've raised at national TV, we have to prioritise our spend and our save where they are, where it's looking after the most vulnerable. Mick, no, we're not permanently losing the cremators. We're in an emergency situation. A business plan will be coming forward, as it was going to anyway, about the future of Poole Crematorium. So I'd encourage you to watch for that. Okay, council staff. We have 600 council staff who have been redeployed from their original role to a new role. So our libraries are closed, our museums are closed, our beachfront services are closed. Some people are having to work from home where they wouldn't normally, and so as a result of that, we have redeployed over 600 people. I think that's over 10% of the staff. So I think that's pretty good. Green bins. Specific situations, if your green bin wasn't collected, then I would go online and report the non-collection of green bin. There is a concern that if a green bin is heavy, does it actually have green waste in? Not making any accusations, but it is worth saying that some people do put other things in the green waste, which contaminates the whole load. So garden waste, you do have the facility now open again. It is a fortnightly service. It will continue to be a fortnightly service. Missed bins, there is a part of the website where you can report that. We can't put out, we can't increase that capacity for two reasons. One, the receptacle that you put the green waste in cannot go in the green waste. So we would have to leave boxes and things at the side of the road. And secondly, our routes are designed to ensure that we can cover the whole area. If capacity is more than the size of a bin per household, then the routes won't work. So I'm afraid you've got to hold on and put it out at the next collection. Council tax, many people are struggling to pay this and rent. So Alexander, yes, we can not take your council tax until June. This is a facility we've been offering to people from the beginning. If you contact us and ask us to reprofile your council tax so that instead of paying from April to January, you pay from June to March, that is being done on request. It's not being done as standard. Two reasons. Many people are still working, and there's no reason why they shouldn't pay while they're working. I personally find not paying in February and March really helpful to help fund Christmas. So, and most of us were ready to pay in April. Clearly, if you've been furloughed, lost your job, taking a cut in your income, that's going to be difficult. And so those people can apply to do that. We don't ask questions about why. You can do that, but you need to ask. Second reason is that the council needs millions of pounds coming in every month in order to pay our bills, such as paying the staff that are going to pick up your green waste bin and look after the elderly people in the country. So effectively, we need the income coming in. So if you can pay, please pay. If you can't pay, you need to contact us. We can reprofile your council tax. If you're a council tenant, so you're living in a council property, then talk to us if you are struggling to pay your rent. We have people that can help with that. If you are renting privately, you need to approach your landlord. And if you have a mortgage, apparently I read 1 in 7 mortgages are now on a payment holiday. Okay, Malik, I'm sorry to hear that you lost your job last week. And thank you for your comments about me being on Sunday Politics. Talk to us. It is far better to let us know that you've lost your job rather than to just cancel it and we don't know why. Let us know. If you've lost your job, then it's really important that we can actually help you with universal credit applications and things like that. Okay, I may well have missed some of these. So what I'm going to do is just cover the ones I can see at the moment. Garden waste, if you're not on the garden waste scheme, then I'm afraid you've got to hold on to it. Alternatively, now might be a time to start the garden waste scheme. But if you usually take it to the tip, you're going to have to wait until it reopens. Or there are still commercial garden waste services available, hippo bags, skips, things like that, if you really have done a lot of gardening. Food banks are still open. Food banks, yeah, they're still open, apply in the normal way. They have relaxed slightly the regulations, but you need to speak to the food bank direct. Sorry, you think it's an excuse about tips. People wouldn't be asking if it wasn't necessary. Well, is it necessary? That's at the end of the day, it's not an essential journey according to the government. We're not going to put our staff at risk so that you can deal with extra waste. We are all having to make sacrifices. This is a sacrifice. We have not missed your black bin, your blue bin, your food bin waste collections. We have got significant numbers of people who are unable to work. We are asking our bin staff to actually walk or cycle to their route and walk behind the bin lorry rather than sit in the cab to maintain social distancing. So we've made significant changes to the service but maintained your service. The one thing we're asking you to do is hold on to your waste. When it reopens, which it will in good time, we will make sure that that you are aware of it. Sorry, they're coming so quickly. Okay, Malik didn't obviously like what I said at the weekend. Oh well, never mind. Can't please everybody. You can visit your father's grave. Our cemeteries are open. We are very happy to facilitate all of your visits to that. What we are asking is that you don't have gatherings at gravesides, and that you actually treat it as a part of your exercise, and where possible that you don't actually travel there by car, that we are obviously asking people to only use their car and travel for those essential journeys. Right, it's very difficult to go backwards, so I'm going to just have to move from where we are. Somebody was asking about the funding for the councils. You'll be aware that we received a tranche of money at the beginning, £11 million. We also confirmed late last night that we've had a second tranche of funding. Even with those two tranches of funding, we are expecting a significant shortfall. The reason for that is that since over the last 10 years, we have had our central government funding cut more and more and more, and now we rely very heavily on other sources of income, not just council tax and business rates, but fees and charges, car parking, seafront services, that sort of thing, and commercial income from some of our commercial ventures. Because all of those have closed, a significant portion of our income has dried up, and whilst the government has said they're going to cover everything, what they've effectively done is concentrated on the additional costs that we have from this situation, i.e. the costs we've had from additional provision for adult social care, children's social care, environmental services, creating the new mortuary and that sort of thing. But it hasn't covered the loss of income that we've had, and this is why you'll see district councils and unitary councils, and we're a unitary council, raising this concern with government and saying thanks very much for what you have given us, but we absolutely don't have enough money to cover everything. And that means one of two things: either we have to cut our services or increase what we charge. I obviously don't want to increase council tax, and we obviously don't want to increase charges, so that means cuts to services unless the government can actually fill that gap. And there's not a lot we can do about that. You know, we can't make the income stretch any further. Question about pop-up bike lanes. We are talking about this on a daily basis, Peter. We are trying really, really hard to work this through quickly. The pop-up bike lanes you've talked about are great, but they do usually require some form of consultation through what's called an experimental traffic regulation order. We need to do that with the local paper. There are still costs involved. There's also signage and bollards and things. So we're looking carefully at what we can spend on this, bearing in mind what I've just said about not having the money to do the basics. So we are trying to balance that, make it better for people who want to get out and cycle and walk, and also, more importantly, make sure that those people who are queuing for the supermarkets have enough space for them to be able to socially distance on the pavement without worrying about the people passing close by. Beverly, yes, we'd like to boost morale, but I'd rather save lives. And I know 2 people who have died locally through this, other people who've been in hospital for significant amounts of time. And frankly, I think saving lives is more important than boosting morale. You can get plants online, you can get plants at the supermarket. You know, we're all having to make some sacrifices. There was some questions. Oh, I'm really struggling here with some questions about, I'm going to have to come back to it. Let me work through. So, council tax increases, they were agreed, they have to go through. If you'd like even more cuts, that's the way it works. What people don't really understand is that we have to pay the national increase in the minimum wage in the same way as every other organisation. We have hundreds of directly employed care workers. We also have contracts with many care organisations who are paying their staff. They have to pay their staff more each year. The national minimum wage went up 6.5% this year. And we were able to increase our council tax by much less than that. So you can see that actually, even with those 6.5% increases in the national minimum wage, what we've increased it by doesn't cover that. We also have the same increases every other household has, you know, gas, electric, fuel costs, those sorts of things. And council staff as key workers, which you've all been clapping, thank you for clapping them. So let's not give them a hard time. They're entitled to a pay increase every year. Their increases are nationally negotiated by the unions. We have to pay that national rate, and that national rate is something which it eats up a lot of the council tax increases. So it's a choice. We have to pay those increases in salary. We have to pay those increases in the fuel costs. We have to replace the bin lorries. We have to do all of those things. We have to maintain all of our buildings. And there is a choice there. We either charge everybody a bit more and the cost of everything goes up, or we cut those services. That really is, you know, the choice we have to make. Right, okay, let's have a look. What have we got? Life is more important than your bin. Zoe, spot on, I'm with you on that. The beach cleared of sand. Well, again, we're damned if we do and we're damned if we don't, aren't we? If our staff go out and clear sand, we'll be told, why aren't you making your staff do more important things? We're doing the best that we can. So I'm really sorry you're not satisfied, but we've got thousands of people who are using the beaches, using the prom, some of them who are doing so in an irresponsible way and travelling by car to get there, which is not really in the spirit of the regulations. Which is making it more difficult for our staff to work. Our beach wardens have been facing real abuse over the last week, and I'm really upset about this, that we've actually had to put people with body cams because of the aggression and the abuse that they're getting from people who think that it's okay for them to just abuse our staff. Stop it, please. We've asked the police to do more patrols, but they are doing a grand job at the moment patrolling all of our communities, and they can't just do the beaches. So we're doing everything we can. The request is, if you don't live near the beach, don't travel to the beach, travel to around where you live. Someone asked the question about driving a few minutes to Kings Park. The police guidance was relaxed to say that you can drive a short way for your exercise if your exercise is significantly longer than your drive. It's a really difficult one. Ideally, it would be far better if you exercised your dog around where you live, but if you do need to make a short journey, then the police are not going to give you a ticket for that. It is the police who have the job of enforcing that, so that is really important. The government recommendation is not to reopen waste tips. That's incorrect. The government recommendation is that we work with our partners towards opening the waste tips. And that's exactly what we're doing. We are working towards reopening them, and we will do so when it is safe to do so, based upon the list of issues. It is likely that will be within a couple of weeks. And in fact, last night I heard on the news that it said waste tips are expected to be open within weeks. That was the news headline. So that's exactly where we are. Pretty comments about beach huts. I'm not going to go back over that again. At the end of the day, we have a decision to make. If we actually take less money in from beach huts, there will be either bigger cuts or bigger increases in other charges. I think it's really important everyone understands that. Clearly, I would love to actually make those decisions. But if I make those decisions, they have consequences. And at the moment, our priority is on people who are vulnerable, people who've lost their jobs. If you've lost your job or you've been furloughed and you can't afford your beach hut payments, we will reprofile them. If you want to hand back your beach hut and say, do you know what, I don't want it anymore, that's fine, hand it back. We'll happily take that from your hands if you don't want to fund that any further. It is a really big inconvenience, and I understand it's a cost for you that you can't use, but ultimately we are in an international pandemic and 117 people in our county have lost their lives, including 2 people that I know. We have had 22 deaths in care homes that are not included in those 117 in a week. I know of one care home that's had almost double figures. And I think the sacrifices the rest of us are having to make in return, in comparison, are minor. So yes, it's a pain you can't go for the tip. And I'm sorry, we're not giving you immediate refunds on your beach huts. We'll do whatever we can to make things easier. But ultimately, my responsibility is to make sure that this council operates properly and funds its services. Okay, council starts on barbecues. So you can, I don't know if this is a question about VE Day. I've just noticed there's 5 minutes to go, so I'll rush through. There are no restrictions on you having a barbecue in your own garden with your own family, whether it's your front garden or your back garden. That is, it's your private property. The issue is that if you have a barbecue alongside other households, it's very difficult to observe social distancing. So we are not encouraging people to do anything which involves them having any sort of communal activities with their neighbours, other than the clap for carers, which is fantastic on a Thursday night. And on VE Day, the Royal British Legion have asked us all to observe 2-minute silence and at 9 o'clock at night to go from our doorsteps and sing We'll Meet Again. That's the restriction. Whether you hold a barbecue in your garden is down to you, but we are not encouraging any communal activities. There will be plenty of opportunity when this is relaxed for us to enjoy communal activities again. Okay. Council relies on income. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Right. Just quickly want to cover a quick thank you to all of our volunteers. We have 2,500 volunteers on Together We Can. Just to remind you, if you know anybody that needs some support, they're stuck at home, they need help with prescription collections, with shopping, dog walking, they just need a friendly person to talk to, the telephone number is 0300 123 7052. That is currently open 7 days a week, 8 till 8, manned by a whole range of staff from the council, from all sorts of departments. So they're very happy to help you. And we have 2,500 volunteers registered. We've currently allocated 1,227 of those to people in their community. So we have another 1,250 people who are keen to help. So if there's somebody in your community or a relative that you can't access that needs this help, point them in our direction. We have people ready to help. Okay, fixing the potholes. And the other thing I just want to cover, because I am running out of time, business grants. We are now proactively contacting the businesses that have not yet applied for their business grants. We have paid out 4,700 grants totaling £60 million. We believe there are about 2,000 other businesses who have not yet made a application for a grant. So if you do have a premises where you pay business rates under 15,000, or you're in the hospitality, retail, or leisure sector, and it's 15 to 51,000, please do see whether you can make your claim. We'd like to get those paid out so that we can support your businesses. There are lots and lots of businesses that are not covered, and I'm really, really sorry. That is not something the council can control. You need to lobby your MP. I'm lobbying your MPs on your behalf. I'm speaking to the Ministry of Local Government, the Local Government Association, and other organisations on your behalf. It's absolutely awful that your businesses are struggling, and we'll do whatever we can, but it's not something the council can pay. We can only pay the grants that are eligible. Last night there was a small loans scheme launched. Yes, it's a loan rather than a grant, but there are no payments and no interest for the first year, and it's fully guaranteed by the government. So if you do have a business, look it up, give it a try. You can borrow between 2,000 and 50,000, up to 25% of the turnover of your business. Jackie, I know there are some people who are driving a long way to Throop to walk. They're driving all over. We are asking them, please do not drive for your exercise. There are exceptions. Clearly, if you're disabled, you've got a special needs child and you need to go somewhere that's more remote, we get that. But for most people who live within half a mile, about a kilometre of an open space, and we all have streets that we can walk on, they're public streets. So, you know, please. Someone's asking about dogs on leads. That's going to be my last comment. We have extended the dogs on beach allowance. Normally on the 1st of May, you wouldn't be allowed to take your dog on the beach anymore. We've extended that now until the 22nd of May. But we would ask that you are respectful of others. If you are somewhere where other people are around, the general rule is if you're somewhere where other people are, you should have your dog on a lead. If you're somewhere where other people are not, then it's okay for them to be free. I need to just stress though, if you are exercising your dog or walking on the heathland, it's absolutely imperative you have your dog on a lead. Not only is it the season for ground nesting birds, and those are going to be disturbed by dogs, but there are adders on our heathlands, and those adders will bite your dog. I don't know if it's a bite, sting your dog, I don't know what the right term is. Anyway, a dog a dog and an adder do not make good company, and we really need to try and reduce the chances of your dog having to go to a vet. But not only that, we have cattle on a lot of our heath, including male cattle with some quite nasty looking horns. I keep well away when I'm on Upton Heath walking with my children. So, you know, ground nesting birds, rare lizards, adders and cattle, you need to keep your dog on a lead, not only for their sake, but for the rest of our sake, because that might spook your dog, or worse, spook the cow, God forbid, but also for the sake of your dog. So that would be great if you could. Where are we? That's pretty much everything that I've got time to cover today. I will do my best to go through as many of those questions that I haven't answered. I know somebody's put some big capital letters, why aren't you answering my question? I'm not quite sure what it was, it moved through so quickly. I'll do my best to answer it. I'm sorry that there are answers you aren't going to necessarily like, but we are all doing our best in incredibly difficult circumstances. So I'm going to sign off now. We will do this again next week. Oh, rats, dead animals, you can go onto the website, but I'll come back to you on the rats later. So thank you, everybody. We do have a section on this website where you can ask the council questions. And our fantastic team in comms who are working really long hours will do their best to answer or to direct your queries to the right place. So thank you to them. Thank you to all of the key workers, both in the council, in the NHS, in the supermarkets, the postal workers. If you're a key worker, you're doing a great job. If you're a parent stuck at home with kids like I am, and you're learning about homeschooling, you're doing a great job too. And if you're just coping with being stuck at home when you'd normally be out and about, we're all doing a great job. We're getting through this together. I have to say congratulations to Boris and Carrie on the birth of their baby today. That would be remiss of me if I didn't. And congratulations to anyone else who's having a baby today. So on that note, I will end my live video, and I will see you all again next week. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.